I'm Scott Fishman.
I'm John Dwoskin.
And this is the 7-Minute Salesman.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, John.
Fish, good morning. How you doing?
Doing great today, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a rainy-ish ice storm morning, but doing good.
Yeah, it's April 15th, man, and we got ice on the ground. It's great. Loving it.
Yeah, taxes are due April 17th. As a reminder for all you salespeople who owe taxes. I've worked with plenty of salespeople that forget to pay their taxes. So don't forget to pay your taxes on April 17th.
Yes, get those unreimbursed business expenses in. So, John, we have a good topic today for our people.
Yeah, we do. Let's Fish, share with them what we're going to talk about.
We are going to talk about painting the vision and the roadmap in the process for your prospective customers so they know where you're going and they know where you want to end up and they're not blindsided by anything.
Fish, say that entire sentence again, because I think every single salesperson, including you and I, need to hear that again. It is critical to being a salesperson.
Yes, I think I can't really say it exactly because I'm just such a wordsmith. But what I will say is what we're talking about is creating a roadmap and a vision for your prospective customers so they know exactly where you're headed and they're not blindsided by anything.
Perfect. So how do we do that? I mean, that is, to me, that's the art of being a salesperson and what clients put their trust in the person that they're working with, the salesperson in this case. And so how do we begin that process?
Sure. I think for me, at least, and this is how when I've trained people and mentored people, one of the very first things I talk about is doing a roller coaster, like going on a roller coaster for the first time. Like roller coasters used to scare the crap out of me. But then once you go on it once and you're like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. Let's go again. And I think one of the reasons that's so scary is because you don't know when you go up that first hill, if it's a good roller coaster, you don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top and you're like, holy shit, this is tall. And then you go down and then you don't know where you're going to flip. You don't know where any of the big intricate parts of the roller coaster are. But once you've done it once and you're like, oh, this is that part where it goes upside down. I'm going to love this. And then you love it because of the feeling that you know it's coming. The adrenaline is there and you're not blindsided by it. You're not surprised by it. So the first time is really scary. The second time is just fun.
Yeah.
And our clients have that same situation. When we're talking to them, they don't know what's around the bend. So they're scared. They don't know when you're going to drop the hammer. They don't know if that's the part where you say, ha, I got you. And they're scared. Remember, they don't want to be sold. They don't want us to lock them in anything. So they always are going to have their guard up. So telling them where they're going to be, where the giant hill is, where the upside down loop-de-loo is, it's going to give them a sense of calm and peacefulness when you're on the call or in a presentation.
Yeah, I that's a great analogy. I love that roller coaster analogy and the whole story. And I think also what's important, just to expand on what you talked about, was it's not only what to expect or what the next step is from you as the salesperson, but typically there's other factors involved or other vendors involved or third parties involved or just different things that a client wants to be in the know. And whether we like it or not, as the salesperson, the client puts all of their, they've looked to the salesperson for the guidance on all of it. They will praise the salesperson, maybe, but blame the salesperson always if everything doesn't go right. So it's really important to not only talk about, I think, the next steps of what you're doing, but what they can expect through the process with other people as well.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't even think about that part of it. Just, when this person calls you, they're going to ask this question and things of that nature, because even in my business, I get that all the time, like 3 or 4 days in, I get a phone call. Hey, this guy John called me from ABC, such and such. Was that a scam? Or was he really calling on your behalf? So yes, having them know the exact roadmap up front is definitely helpful.
I'll give a small story. It doesn't necessarily apply completely to what we're talking about, but a little bit. My every year, my son was playing rec basketball, and they have a 50-50 lottery through the whole season. And so when they sold the tickets, they just said, hey, 50-50, 50-50. So anyway, my father-in-law one day gets a call and from some random place, and they said, we need your social security number. You won a 50-50. And he didn't even remember he bought a ticket. So he had to end up doing so much research, and he backed it to the school district of the 50-50. But had they said on a flyer or this, the winner will get called by such and such company to claim your prize, it would have saved a lot of heartache and a lot of time. And it took him, I think, a couple hours to kind of investigate what it was. I mean, he was happy at the end because he won $1,000, but it was a big headache because he didn't know what to expect.
Right. He wasn't sure if it was one of those, the IRS is suing you phone calls.
Correct. And there's a lot of those that come up. I mean, I know we get those a lot, but the trust I think that a client has in a salesperson goes up when the salesperson can paint the whole picture and the whole surroundings of everything that they're about to expect.
Yes.
And everything that's next. And I don't think that the client can really comprehend or receive so much. So the salesperson, I think, always needs to at least keep that, hey, here's the big picture like you were talking about, but here's the next 1, 2, or 3 things that are going to happen. And then always staying in front of what the next 1, 2, or 3 things are that they should expect for a smooth closing.
Yeah, and I think that's the very next step. Like step 1 is painting the 10,000-foot view of here's where we're going, here's the steps we're going to take, and none of those should be too in-depth. It should be very quick, like here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and this is where we're going to end up. And then, like you said, then we break it down as we go, almost like navigation in your car. You know, you put in, I'm going to this restaurant, 50 miles away, you really don't know where it is. The navigation doesn't remind you every single time all the steps. It says go 1,000 feet and turn left, go 2 miles and get off at this exit. It's always in your screen, the next step, not the entire process. If you do want to see that, you can go back to that 10,000 foot view on the map as long as you're not driving. Always remember, don't text and drive. But you can only see the next step in front of you. And that's important for the customer and the client, because as we go through, John, we go step 1, step 2, and then the last step, and by the way, the next step is all we have to do is wrap this up. Is our MasterCard, that sort of thing.
I like your driving analogy because I don't know if I told you this. Jacob got his driver's permit this past week. And so he came home at 9:00 at night. He had his driver's permit. And so I've been driving with him a ton. And that is how he only wants to know what to do next when he's learning, as he's learning how to drive. So on top of forget the GPS in this instance, watching somebody learn how to drive for the first time, it is exactly that. Like, he doesn't want me to tell him too far in advance of what to do when he, gets to the third light or the right or the left-hand turn. He just needs to know piece by piece. And so our clients are nervous like that too. So if we give them too much information, they get overwhelmed. They simply get overwhelmed. And I think what's really important also is follow up with email, because there's so much content, because there's so much new things around the corner, like your roller coaster analogy. Regardless if we tell them, we have to email them I'm going to use yours because I like it a lot, in a navigation step-by-step, easy to follow, USA Today, preferably bullet points, review of what we talked about, so they know and it's clear, and a third grader could process it.
Yeah, the way I would do it is literally as soon as I hung up the phone with you, John, I would have an email typed up, say, John, thank you very much for speaking with me today. Again, I'm super excited to work with you. Here's the next step. Just to confirm, we're speaking on Friday the 20th at this time. If you have any issues with that, please let me know right away so I can slot someone else into that time frame, as I've got a lot of folks that are interested in taking advantage of this.
Yeah, well said. And a lot of this stuff, the follow-up and the asking of the questions and understanding what they want to accomplish and understanding where they want to go and, understanding what their, goals are, those have nothing necessarily to do sometimes with the products that we're selling, but just really good salesmanship.
Yeah. And on that same end, good customer service. We want our clients to be happy. We want them to enjoy the process. We don't want them to be worried about what the next step is. So when we give them that overview, they have no choice but to know what's going to come up next. And if it's going to be an objection, like sometimes they might say, hey, I'm not ready for that next step. and they'll tell you, and you can get out of, maybe even back out of the whole transaction before you waste a ton of time if you realize that, hey, these people aren't even serious about doing this at this point. Or you can overcome that objection and really move forward with the process with that same person. And it fleshes out a lot of objections during the whole continuum.
Yeah.
Word continuum, by the way.
I love the word continuum. The word continuum is great because I think it allows at least me visually to see things as an assembly line. And when you can see things as an assembly line, then you can really kind of stay ahead of real time, piece by piece of what the client needs. And a lot of times, even though you have a continuum that is very sequential, you can customize it and move things around in your mind or on paper for a client.
I love it. It becomes modular. So you realize if somebody's getting bogged down or they're hitting a speed bump, you can fix that one piece or move it to another, time frame in the continuum.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is really important. I think this is the art of sales, really being able to guide our clients and let them know what's around the corner. I think your roller coaster analogy is great. So for every salesperson out there, take the time to really look at your pipeline and how you're talking to your prospects and how you're trying to generate new leads with those prospects and, how you're walking your current clients through your sales continuum, and make sure that each client feels comfortable in what's next. Because I think what you'll find is that the ones that don't feel comfortable in what's next because you haven't guided them are the ones that maybe take the most time and have the most time, are most confused, and maybe will not be as loyal to you the second time around.
That's great, John. And I know the 7-Minute Sales Minute community loves when we give them takeaways. So here's one for you, folks. The next time you are in front of a prospect, you're on a call, you're in a presentation, be very mindful of whether your customers know what the next step is, or are you just leaving them hanging. They need to know where they're headed so you could take them to the promised land, which, of course, is the yes and the close and the contract.
I think we can end it on that. I think that's great. That's a great question to end with. And well said, Fish.
Well, thank you. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Now, no excuses. It's time to put everything you listen to into action. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop listening and doing nothing with this information. Take this information, implement it into your day, kick some ass, grow your business, grow your sales, make more money, have more fun, have a better life, period, the end.
What he said.